Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Sipping on No Common Sense. This is your creator and host. This is your girl, Tiff. Again, I hope everybody's having a great week. It has cooled down for us, thank God, because this past weekend was terrible for me.
It's off.
I can't deal with it too much. You know, so how you been?
Good. Been doing good. Glad to be here, Tiff.
Thank you. I appreciate the accepting the invite. You know, I know I've been rescheduling all nuts. I was like, this man, I might get on this man Thursday.
My schedule has been very, very crazy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we both have crazy schedules right now. Sitting on the right of me, this gentleman, his name is Ben Torres. I just want to introduce you a little bit. He's actually a pastor as his moment. Located in Highwood, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Recently, you were working with Marvel and
Yes.
Star Wars, correct?
Yes.
You worked on. I did some research a little bit about you.
Oh, Lord.
You were graphic and product design. You worked on Daredevil versus Kingpin, which the Netflix that just passed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome. That's a great series. I love that. I hate they canceled it.
Yeah, one of my favorites. One of my favorites.
Star Wars, G.I. Joe, which is dope. And you worked on Batman also?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's dope. And one of my favorites too, Captain America, the first Avenger. So you've got your hands in everything mostly.
Yes.
How was that experience? Doing that? Well, let's get into a little bit of your background for the people that may not know you.
Okay.
Introduce yourself thoroughly.
My name is Ben Torres. I was formerly a creative director in the entertainment industry, and are you familiar with Hasbro Toy Group?
No.
Hasbro?
No.
Transformers, G.I.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was hired by them
Okay.
way back in 1994.
Okay.
And that's how I got into the industry.
Okay.
My first project was, you're probably too young to remember this, but my very first project was a movie called Waterworld.
Oh, wow.
With Kevin Costner.
I know Kevin Costner, yeah.
Yeah. And that was my first project. My second project was, you're probably too young to remember this too, Batman Forever.
Yes, I remember.
Okay.
With Michael Keaton?
With Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer. Okay.
And those were my first projects, and I worked on Alien 3, I believe, at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so Hasbro reached out to me. They were, I got gum on my mouth.
No, that's fine.
They were starting their entertainment division. Okay. Hasbro's known for making toys, creating toys, like legendary toys like Star Wars and G.I. Joe and Transformers and just a ton of other things, Easy Bake Oven and so on and so forth. And so they wanted to start they wanted to expand their industry, their business, and start a creative house, if you will. And they cast a large net. Somehow they got a hold of me, and they put me on Waterworld as the first project. It was really strange.
Okay.
My former background was before I entered into the design field. I was a mental health counselor.
Oh, wow!
For the state of Ohio. I'm originally from the Cleveland area.
Oh, okay.
And so.
Go Cavs.
Yeah, go Cavs. Go Cavs. I'm a diehard all sports Cleveland fan. So I was a mental health counselor in that area. I was doing freelance jobs in between clients. And we had really extreme clients. And the vice president of the company of design saw my work on a cover, and it just so happened that one of my friends, this guy named Wayne, was being interviewed at the same time.
Okay.
And during the interview process, he said, "Do you know this guy?" He pulls out my cover, and he said, "Yeah, we're good friends."
Oh, wow.
And then so he contacted me and another colleague, a guy who would become my colleague named Chris Woods. They contacted us, and they they asked us for an interview. They asked Chris for an interview.
Okay.
I was in my career, so I'm like, I don't want to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna qualify all this by saying I'm from an area that's kind of like the hood.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I heard you.
So when you grow up in that, your expectations aren't very high, and that kind of thing. So what happened was Chris gets an interview, and it just so happened that this particular Hasbro location was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we were from the Cleveland area. So Chris asked me to drive with him. It's a 4-hour drive. And he said, hey, just bring some of your artwork as well. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was they ushered us into this big black leather room, and they proceeded to give us a presentation. And they at that time they were talking about Batman and Superman and aliens and Predator, and they're showing us all these things.
Yeah.
Now I'm from the hood,
right?
And I'm like, what does this got to do with anything? What is this?
Right.
What does this got to do with me?
Yeah.
So literally, they leave the room, they come back and they offer us jobs.
Oh wow, that's dope. That's amazing. How'd you feel at that point?
I'm prefacing everything by saying my background informed my responses. Okay, so I'm like, what? Okay, I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to be putting heads on G.I. Joe action figures.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not thinking I'm going to design it.
Right.
So I talked to my wife, and she lovingly said, "Fool, you better take that job."
Right. Shout out to the moon in the background, okay? Support.
And so I switched careers, and I got to Hasbro, and they were right in the middle of starting this process of them becoming an entertainment company, as opposed to a toy company.
Right.
So I was there for 30 days, and they essentially said to me, we need a TV show developed. You need to fly out to Hollywood and develop the TV show from scratch. So I developed G.I. Joe Extreme, and that was my very first show. Okay. That was my very first show. So that's literally, dope. Yeah.
How was that feeling to see it like on TV?
It was weird. Yeah. It was very weird because I had as a kid I grew up reading comic books and drawing and so on and so forth, and it was just very strange. And what happened was I ended up working with some of my heroes, because when I was a kid I used to watch cartoons, not so much for the cartoon, but to see who was producing it and who was drawing it and designing it. Right. So there was this one gentleman named Will Mineo, and everybody knows Will Mineo. He's world famous, legend in the industry. Probably his biggest claim to fame is he worked on the classic X-Men TV series from the 90s. Okay. So that was my coming straight out of the mental health field as a counselor. I get to work with one of my heroes. So I was fanboying. So it was a great opportunity for me.
That's dope. That's amazing.
And it was. And then the people that helped me develop the TV show, they were legends in their industry, and some would go on to become legends in the industry. One guy in particular, his name is Carlos Fuente. He ended up, I think he's still there, but he was the head of special effects over at DreamWorks. Okay. Or no, Lucasfilm, I believe. Yeah. So it was. I was thrown into the deep end. I was thrown into the deep end.
Can you explain what graphic and production design is? Because a lot of people will be like, what is that? I mean, I see it during the films, the end of the films, but I don't know basically what that is. So
you know the shirt you got on? Yeah. Like if you could just show your shirt a little bit.
Right. Okay.
That's graphic design.
Okay.
That's just 2D. That's just 2D, right? Right. And you arrange certain things on a flat surface, and you just create a visual that way. Right. I can do that. Part of my job as creative director is to be responsible for knowing how to do all of that stuff. Oh, right? Okay. So I could do that. Right. I can develop stories like from scratch. So when you're working on a TV show, you have to come up with the idea. And then what happens is you have to present the idea. Okay. Right. And so you then have to write it out. Right. With there's a team around you. Right. But once the team gets done with writing it out, I have to present it. Right. To the board. Right. And so, show pitches. Like,
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with how, when people pitch ideas for TV shows and that kind of thing. It's that.
Oh, okay.
It's that.
Okay.
It's
okay.
that.
Okay.
It's that. And then there's character development, which is a little different. You have to sit down and draw it out and design it and that kind of thing, like for video games or for movies. Like there's a one of my old coworkers from Hasbro became she was the first African American woman nominated for production design, and she was the first African American woman nominated for production design. She was the first African American woman to win an Oscar for it this past February.
Oh wow!
Right?
Oh okay, yeah, I remember you talking about that.
And so some of that's involved in that as well. So her name was Hannah Beekler, and what Hannah was wonderful to work with, creative genius. And so part of what she did for Black Panther, creating the visual, the world, that's part of what I used to do too.
Oh, okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. It does. Yeah. Like I was like, a lot of people don't know what that is because they just think if you pitch a show and then it does 1, 2, 3, it's a lot.
No, it's a lot of work
behind
a lot of waiting.
A show and or a film.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Where did in the point in your life that you knew that you could draw like that? Because you are very talented. When I went to your past workshop this year, I was just looking at the pictures you drew for the kids under like 5 or 10 minutes. It was amazing. Like, oh my God, to the detail and everything. How did you know, like, in that point that you had a gift like that?
My whole family's that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my whole family's that way. And I don't remember ever not drawing. I mean, I think my earliest pictures that my sister still has, 3 years old. I think.
Gosh.
Yeah, so...
wow.
And since Facebook over the last 10 years, people have shown me all the drawings that I did for them when I was in elementary school.
Yeah.
So I don't ever remember
right.
that, but it was one of my teachers, my 4th grade teacher. I was an angry kid, and my 4th grade teacher, she sat me down and said, "You could be really productive if you focused over here." Right. And then I had another teacher. I love her to death. You may have seen me talking about her on Facebook. Her name is Loretta Jones. She's my 6th grade teacher. She was a truth. She was a truth.
She sounded like it.
She was a truth. She was a total, black turtleneck, medallion, afro.
Oh, okay.
Total Black Panther, and she was instrumental in me really thinking I could do this for a living. And she would take me and she would sit me aside and she would encourage me. She would say, "Hey, you're smart, you got skills." And so what she would do, because I was really a knucklehead as a kid, she would have me do these horrible projects that they're just so boring, and but they would focus my creativity. And what would happen is, years later, it would pay off. So
that's right. You're right.
I thank God for Mrs. Jones.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
I really do.
We all need a Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
So what comic book inspired you to do what you wanted to do? Do you have one, like a favorite one? Like
my favorite character was Spider-Man. The way my life was, I had a lot of people at strategic times in my life speaking into my life. So the person that got me into comic books was my older brother. I'm the youngest of 12, and it was my older brother and a boxer named Melvin Ricks.
Okay.
And Melvin would come over and we'd watch old Ali movies that he would have. He was a huge Ali fan. And then we would just sit and draw. And he was really a great artist, but he went on to become a boxer, and then I think he went on to do some other things as well.
Okay.
But it was him. He introduced me to that world and showed me how enveloping it could be. And from there it just fascinated me. And it helped me read and calm me down.
Yeah, that's true. It looks like, because I hear coloring calms you down now, so they figured that out now.
Yeah.
I need to color more then. You say you relate to Spider-Man. Why?
Young kid, going through issues, from a story level, from an art level, I just love the artwork. I just love the artwork, and the guy that was drawing it at the time was a guy named John Romita Senior, and then his son began drawing it, and I was just fascinated by their artwork.
Do you like the where it's going? The story, the new Spider-Man is headed?
I don't even follow it.
You don't follow it anymore?
I worked on Spider-Man for 10 years straight. So if I worked on Tobey Maguire movies, I worked on Andrew Garfield movies and whatnot. So if I never see Spider-Man again,
I feel you.
But I love the character to death. It was an honor and privilege to work on it. And what we contributed, I contributed a lot of pre-concept artwork for those films and for the product designs. The product designs, like if you see any products for like toy products or any other kind of product for Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 with the Tobey Maguires, I designed most of that stuff.
Oh, okay.
And if you see a Mary Jane in there, that's my daughter. So I use her as a base to create Mary Jane. But yeah.
That's dope. Wow, that's so crazy.
A lot of the stuff I can never put online. I can never put it online because
contract reasons. I know. Do you believe that the films help the comic book world? Because it seems like everybody is part of it.
No, the films don't help at all. The sales are bad. Like sales are down. Like in the early 90s, you could do a comic book and you could become a millionaire. Like off the first issue. Now, if like in terms of sales, if you're selling around 50,000 copies, that's a lot. Which it wasn't a lot back in the day. Right. Like it was an average, like a X-Men or Spider-Man, they were up like in the million units sold type of thing. But now it's, you got other streams where you got media and you got YouTube stuff and you got the movies coming out.
That's true. What was your favorite project to work on, and what's the main thing that you're proud of? Like, I did that.
A couple of them.
Okay.
I would say, for me personally, the biggest one is this show I created called Mummies Alive. Came out in late 90s. It was on for 2 seasons. It was probably the only project I ever worked on, and the writers that I worked on. It was produced by the guy that produced Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay.
So he produced it.
Okay.
I think Weird Al Yankovic did the theme song for it. And the writers that I work with, they're legendary writers. So I got to work with some heroes. And one of their claims to fame is Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Okay. But that was the only project that I ever worked where it came straight from here. And it was not changed at all. Because in the industry, if you do something, there's a bunch of people involved in it because there's a lot of money involved in it, so everyone wants their hands on it. That was the only one that people were like, we have no idea what this is. Right. And go ahead, we're just gonna leave you alone. Right. That's cool. I'm personally proud of that. When all the Star Wars stuff, I'm proud of. I'm proud of that.
Oh, okay. That's Star Wars. That's pretty good. I couldn't get into it a little bit. I don't know. I'm just.
I was not a fan. I'm still not a fan.
No, right. But people love it. Like every time it comes out, it's like Star Wars everywhere.
People love it. My sons and so on and so forth are fans, and have to be careful because I don't want to get any inboxes and whatnot. But I'm really not a fan of it from a film standpoint. I'm a fan of it from a cultural phenomenon standpoint, where this thing that nobody gave a chance became this huge phenomenon. And it sells billions of dollars. It sells billions. And the work I did on some of that stuff I'm proud of it. Captain America, the work I did on that one, I'm proud of.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So I feel like I got Hollywood next to me. No. Did you ever get that itch to start your own thing? Did you ever get it?
I did. Yeah, business did well.
Oh, okay. Okay. Explain more in depth.
I was in China. Part of his job as a designer, as a creative director, is that you get to work on a multitude of things. So I can do the concept work, I can do the artwork, graphic design, all that stuff. But the other thing that it allows you is it allows you to create product lines for stores. And so from 2005 to 2007, I was responsible for creating a bunch of like Christmas ornaments for Macy's and Nordstrom, and so in 2005 I pretty much lived over in China, and it just allowed you to see what kind of impact you can have. You know, and I forgot what the question was.
It's all right. It's all right. It's a little warm here. No, did you ever want to start your own Marvel and DC? That's right. That's okay.
Part of when I started my business, that was the first that was the first job I got. That was the first consulting job I got. And it was I was responsible for a bunch of stuff that they're still using at Macy's and you know Nordstrom and all that stuff comes from the same factory. Doesn't matter if it's at Macy's. Yeah. It's created in the same factory, so if Big Lots has it, guess what? They got it from the same factory that Macy's got it from. So you know,
that's crazy.
That's an industry secret. I'll probably hear some stuff about that. So
is there one project that you wish you were part of?
Yeah, I really would like to have been part of the Black Panther. Because we pitched that about 20-something years ago.
Oh wow.
And they didn't.
It wasn't the right timing.
It wasn't the right time. It wasn't viable. And I really wanted to be a part of that. So when my former coworker Hannah's name was on the screen, I literally I started crying because there was such a long history. Yeah. And it was a miracle to get that movie made. The way it was made with the people involved. Yeah. It was a minor miracle. Yeah. So
I know you're happy to see that.
Yes.
That was crazy.
Yes.
If let's transition to to pastor. So you work with Marvel and Star Wars and all these big productions, and you transitioned to be a pastor. Yeah. What made you want to transition into that?
I you know, after you work with, and I'm not saying this because you know, I think so highly of myself or whatever, but when you're in that environment, it's really fast paced. Yeah. And you're working on things that are huge. Yeah. You know, and you know, when you're working on Disney and Hannah Montana, you know, doing things for that kind of thing, and working with Sony and Marvel and DC. Like I worked on DC. I worked on DC stuff for a good 10 years, and then I worked on Marvel stuff. Well, I just finished some Marvel stuff just recently. Okay. You know, so when you work in that environment, you're on the cutting edge. Yeah. You know. Yeah. You know. Yeah. But within all of that, I just felt a call and tug in my life, and it started when I was 4. Oh, okay. It started when I was 4, and if I could, you know, put it in God terms. Oh yeah, go ahead. God just kept pulling at my heart. Yeah. Pulling at my heart. And I looked at my life, and there were things that I knew I was spared from for my own stupidity that had to be nothing but the Lord. And then what happened was I had these wonderful teachers really shepherd me, really speak into my life. And then I had I went to college. That was a minor miracle. That was a minor miracle. And it just so happened that there was 2 gentlemen there who took me under their wing. I'll put it like that. They took me under their wings, and like I said,
you being a G out here, Ben.
I was a knucklehead. I'll put it like I was involved in some foul stuff. Oh, okay. And you know, it's kind of typical story. You know, where you grow up. You got issues. I was a parent at 16. Took my son with me when I was 17, and decided to raise him and that kind of thing. And you know, you do a mess. You know, you just do a mess the whole time. And one of the turning points, if I could say, was January 1987. I saw my wife for the first time. And I just wanted to do right, because I had lived a lot in a short period of time. I lived a lot and I did a lot of stuff in
Right.
a very short period of time, and I felt like my life was going out of control. And so I met her, and then I met some other guys, the other gentlemen I met at Kent State University. They took me under their wing, and they knocked some sense into me.
Yeah.
And I started going to this church called the House of the Lord, which was the first church I had ever seen any men do anything. And so that was impactful. And a guy named Cecil Shorts was the one that challenged me the most.
Yeah.
Cecil Shorts, his son plays in the NFL right now.
Okay.
But Cecil would challenge me like constantly, so much so to the point where we would almost come to blows.
Yeah.
You know, just because he was just so obnoxious with it.
Yeah.
But it was out of his love and concern
Yeah.
for me.
Right.
And so I just kept filling that pool. And some things happen.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to be drinking and driving. You know? Some things happen. Some miraculous things happen to save me. And one particular incident was, this was in high school. I was driving with some friends. We were just graduated, and we was all blowed. We was all back then we say chewed. We was done.
Okay.
We was done. And we were going to this party, and we were turning. There was nobody on the street. We were turning left into this alley to go to this party. Out of nowhere, I see two headlights. Boom! Just hits us. The car starts turning.
Oh wow.
And I'm looking, and I'm trying to see if we got hit that hard, the other car's got to be there.
Yeah.
There was no car there.
Oh wow.
There was no car there. So we were jacked up, man. It's like literally the passenger side was like squished in almost to the driver's side. So we were driving. So we're throwing out. Back then we used to drink Mad Dog and Boone's Farm, and we were throwing all that out the window because we were screaming.
Acting wild.
Right. And the car died. And when the car died, it died. And then the other cats, they jumped out of the car. I kicked the door open, and I was getting glass off my face. And I don't know. Some said, "Look up." I looked up, and the car died right in front of a church. And I looked up, and it was pitch black, and there was like this cross on the church.
Oh wow!
Right?
Wow!
And so that shook me to my core. I'm not like easily shaken.
Yeah.
That shook me to my core.
Yeah.
And then I go to college, and all these other things unfold. And God was just really tugging on me. He said, "What are you gonna do?
Right.
You know, what are you gonna do?" And there was an incident that I had where I'll put it like this. I was drinking, and I had to go pick my wife up, and we weren't married then, and it was a 30-minute drive, so we're at Kent State. It was a 30-minute drive. I do not know how I got from Kent State to Cleveland. I have no idea. All I know is that I woke up, I was getting off the freeway, and I sat on her sofa, and I'm like, I have no idea how I got here. I have no clue as to how I got here. And
I was with you at that point.
Yeah, it just made me reevaluate. There are some things that I just can't explain.
Yeah.
You know, I just can't explain. And so what happened was, I left being a mental health counselor because I felt the tug of God on my life, and I decided I just can't deal with this. So then I become this designer in this great profession.
Yeah.
I do more counseling as a designer than I did as a counselor. Okay, so. And there were people that would just word vomit on you, who you'd be really surprised. Like people that you would know, people that you would know, that you would think, oh, you got it all together, and they would just come and just talk. You know, so I found myself pastoring. Without even wanting to. And then it just so happened in 1997. A gentleman named Don Culpepper said, "Hey, would you like to be the young adult assistant at our church?" And something inside of me said, "You know, you're going to take this over, right?"
Right.
And so what happened was, we had no young adults.
Right.
It was an old church.
It's at that building that you had to work.
No. This was all in Ohio. All in Ohio.
Okay.
So we were at this church called Great Commission. They had no young adults. So Don Culpepper started the young adults ministry. I then ended up taking it over by default, and it just exploded. And I just felt like God telling me, "Now what you gonna do?"
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then I'm like, I ain't gonna be no pastor.
Yeah.
Right. So I moved from Ohio to Chicago in 2002, and God is like, so now what you gonna do? I set you up with this really nice gig. Now what you gonna do?
Right.
It's like, I ain't gonna be no pastor.
Right.
So after I said that, a week later, I was in the hospital fighting for my life, and really had to reevaluate some things. And I said, okay, if this is what you really want me to do, you gotta, make stuff happen, because I'm doing this over here. Right. And this is paying for my family. Yeah. Pastors don't be making no money. Right. Yeah, sometimes they don't be making no money. I mean, if you're doing it right. Right. If you're doing it right with some integrity, you're going to have some financial issues in general. In general. Yeah. And I'm not going to say, I don't want to say all pastors are broke. Oh, no. But the median income for a pastor? No.
Yeah.
Y'all
have the toughest job, so.
So, God began showing me some things. I was at Harvest Bible Chapel. I became leader of one of the leaders of the men's ministry. That began to grow. God's like, now what you gonna do? And I said, I ain't gonna become no pastor. So then I fled to China. Right. And I was in China.
Took a whole 20-hour flight.
Yes, I was in China, and I just felt that tug, and it was like I felt like God was saying to me, look, this is the mountaintop. This is what's required of you to really succeed in this life. Right. In this particular life. Right. This is what you have to do. You have to morally compromise. Yeah. Right. And within that moral compromise, there's some activities that are required. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. I didn't want to do them activities. Right. I didn't want to do them activities. Yeah. A lot of the stuff you hear is true. It's true. And I didn't want to do that. So I came back to the States, and I'm like, Lord, what God, what do you really want me to do? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I ended up going to seminary. What happened was, in seminary, we lost everything. We lost everything. My job, my career. Almost died like 5 times. I was in a hospital for a long time. Couldn't walk, couldn't really use the left side of my body. Oh, wow. And I'm in seminary. Oh, wow. And so it was rough. It was rough. And my question was, okay, I agreed to do this. Right? Yeah. Why are you allowing this to happen? I got a wife, I got children. Yeah. Why are you allowing this to happen? Yeah. I still ain't got my answer. Yeah. But slowly, but surely we started to come out of it. And when I say we lost everything, like everything. It was by the grace of God and I shouldn't even be here. Yeah. Like what I had normally kills people, like heavy D died from. I have a blood clotting disease where my blood clots at the bottom of my ankle, then it shoots up through your heart. Yeah. And it feels like being shot. That's what it feels like. And it can kill you. Just one can kill you. Just one can kill you. And so I had to have it to me like 5 times. And so when I say I almost died, I'm not over exaggerating. Yeah. I should not be here. Yeah. And so what happened was, what really got my attention was one time in the hospital, I was in there and people just kept coming into my room, and they said, I heard you're a pastor. Yeah. I need to talk to you. Yeah. So when I was in ICU, I'm pastoring people. Right? Right? So I said, Lord, my life is yours. Do with it what you want to, because this makes no sense to me. Right. It makes no sense to me. Right. So I ended up graduating seminary, I was holding on to the last piece of my entertainment life, right? So I could barely walk. Yeah. Once September 13th, 2013, I get up to go to work, and something I felt deep inside of me say, your life as how you know it is over with, right? So the guy I was consulting for, I walk into his office, I'm on crutches, I can barely walk, right? Yeah. And I'm still trying to hold on. Yeah. And the guy's like, we gotta talk, so we parted ways. Yeah. Well, I told him what I thought about him. Yeah. Right? Right. In a loving way, of course.
A G.
I told him what I thought about him. Yeah. He was foul. Yeah. He was real foul. Yeah. I leave and I know I'm not ever going back. So I start crying. I am not a crier. I'm like, Lord, I got this wife.
Yeah.
Got these kids. What in the world am I going to do?
Right.
So I literally drive crying, boo-hooing to the Vernon Hills Library. I get online. Somebody from Harvest Bible Chapel said, hey, what are you doing with your seminary degree?
Right.
And I said, nothing. I'm sitting here crying at the library.
In a nice library.
Right. Yeah. It was. And so September, I go from my one life into becoming a pastor.
That's a lot. It's amazing though.
Yeah,
at the same time.
It's been, that's like the short version. There's so much stuff that happened to us.
Yeah.
So much stuff that happened to us. So much stuff that, most folks would have got divorced over. Just because, and not because we weren't getting along, but because the stressors, the things that we could not control were really affecting us. And it was affecting our children. Yeah. And it was,
overwhelming.
It was overwhelming. Yeah. I was bedridden in 2013, and my wife would have to feed me. My kids would have to feed me. Yeah. And I finished seminary, being unable to walk on my back. But I got well enough. Yeah. Where I said to myself, I'd have been through all of this hell. Yeah. I'm gonna walk across that stage.
Yeah, I know that's
and
right.
Get my degree. And almost
Lord, you want me to do this now? I'm gonna walk across the stage.
Yes. And I almost passed out doing it, but I did it. So
that's amazing. That's amazing, man.
But I went on a little too long.
Oh no, go ahead. Hey, it's the show to I give people the platform to tell their story. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? In a positive aspect. Because I met you one time, but I really didn't know. Yeah, one or two times, I think. Yeah, at your workshop and something. Okay. Yeah. So we really haven't seen each other since last year.
Okay. And Tiff, I'm getting old too, so.
We cool.
We hang out. We done dinner together.
Right.
You're saying we only met
one or two times.
Okay. Yeah. I will go with your memory. I will go with that.
I know you're busy, so I know.
And
I know you started the workshop, the storyteller. What motivated you to start something like that? It was amazing, by the way, too.
Oh, thank you.
I never been to something like that. I thought that was really dope.
When I was a kid, nobody ever said I could make a living being, using my talent. And so my desire is I just want to give back, to specifically to anyone, but specifically to our folks, African American, Hispanic folks, who don't have a frame of reference for that.
You're right.
Like we're told, essentially, you have to be good at sports. Yeah. You have to be a good entertainer, and those are like the only two options.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And granted, the world's changed a lot, and other folks have become more entrepreneurial. But when I was younger, the idea of actually you can get paid to create.
That's crazy.
Like only Toni Morrison, because Toni Morrison is from my hometown.
Oh, okay.
And that's the only person that I knew that got paid, and was esteemed. And so my desire is just to give back and help those out who normally wouldn't even be able to have access to that. Because in order to do something like I do, like I did with the workshop, that's a lot of money to go to.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of money.
I was about to say that,
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
The information and the stuff that you had going on, it would cost big money to participate in something like that.
It would.
And I was surprised. I was like, you sure this free? I was just making sure.
So we don't give everything away.
Right.
We don't give everything away.
But
we give enough away to get folks started. And so I went back to my hometown, near Cleveland, and so we did one at my brother and my best friend. He's a brother to me. At his church. Okay. And we really weren't expecting a whole lot of people.
It was a lot.
It was more than what we had expected.
Right.
And something miraculous happened there.
Okay.
And what it did was it it just shed a light on what my suspicions were, that we're super talented people.
Yes, we are.
We're super talented.
Yes, we are.
We just need the tools to build on that. And so it was real. I can't tell you. We divided the workshop up into 4 groups.
Okay.
And we said it was mostly writers. So to the writers, we said this is a real world situation. Your agent calls you up. You got to have something by tomorrow morning.
Right.
Right. And it is a show about a family.
Okay.
Right. And so we took the groups and we said, your genre is comedy. Your genre is a tragedy. Your genre is a drama, and the other one was a television series.
Okay.
Right. And the things that those people came up with, it was the best workshop I've ever done.
Oh wow.
It was unbelievable. I mean, it really was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the pastor, my friend, told me that. That we were a blessing to them, but they didn't realize they were a blessing to us, me and my colleagues.
Yeah.
And so they asked for us to come back. And so we did another one about 2 weeks ago. Same thing. It was just amazing. They even came up with there's a bunch of musicians there. Right. And they came up with theme songs for the show. It was tight. That's crazy. It was tight. It was tight. It was. I'm truly humbled. Yeah. Truly humbled by the whole thing. Yeah. But it was tight. So what we've been doing over the past since June with these group of people, we've just been video chatting with them, helping them develop their concepts, helping them develop their projects. And one of the young women asked us, "Why are we doing this?" Yeah. To whom much is given, right? To whom much is given, much is required. Right. And they're like, but you're doing it for free. Yeah. Yeah. I understand the sacrifice. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But where else you gonna go? Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's true. Where else you gonna go? Where somebody's gonna say, here, these are the building blocks to a successful career for free. Right. Right. So that's my passion, is to educate us on how do you do this, how do you harness this creativity and actually make money out of it. And some people get super religious. Oh, God don't want you making money. That's not even true. Right. That's not even true. Yeah. Because they don't want our people to be poor. Well, God gives you physical talents. As a social economic base. That's what you see in the Old Testament, right? Yeah. Right. So, in the Old Testament, what happens is when in Exodus, where they build the tabernacle, right? Right. Scripture says they craftsmen of all kinds, right? Right. Yes, it sounds all romantic. Yeah. But it's not. Right. Like if you really break it down into plain English. Essentially, they called the Torres landscaping company down the road to come mow the lawn, right? Right. Then they had carpenters, they had interior designers, industrial designers, fashion designers for the interior, so on and so forth. It's all stuff that we do now. Right. But a lot of times pastors don't teach that. Yeah. Because it's we don't know. Yeah. We just don't know. We don't view it that way, that no, these are just folks. Right. These are just folks that this is what they do. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So when he says craftsmen, they were already, it was their profession already. Right. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah. 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 So God ain't gonna say, hey Tiff, I need you to do electrical engineering in this building. And unless you've studied electrical engineering, guess what? You're going to be sitting there with wires in your hand. Yeah. That's true. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah. Or like me, hey, Ben, come join the choir and be the lead singer. Well, I sound like a foghorn. On Facebook, you make it sound different. And my wife agrees. He make on Facebook like he be blowing. Post these songs. I gotta do something to entertain myself. I know. It is funny. I be cracking up at your posts. So why is it so important for you to help other people? Because I know what it's like not to have the help. I grew up the last child of 12, right? My mother had a 4th grade education. She came from Puerto Rico. My dad just happened to, he was a unicorn. He was a Puerto Rican guy, took advantage of the GI Bill and got an education, right? But my mom was a trip.
Yeah.
She was a trip.
Yeah.
So my dad was like, you trip.
Right.
So I'm not going to be here.
Right.
Right. And it was a rough situation. And you were expected, all of us were expected to, like, my mom had this expectation, get an education. That was it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to figure that stuff out.
Right.
How am I supposed to figure that out?
Yeah.
I'm 3 years old. I just want to get some, I just want to get some Fruit Loops.
Right. And my sippy cup, that's it.
Yes.
And
so
be in front of TV, that's it.
Exactly. And so I had a difficult time finding my way. And it was teachers like Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Snyder, Mrs. Rector, Ms. Kapiniak. They saw something in me and they wanted to cultivate that. And I feel the same. I feel the same empathy. There's a couple of young gentlemen at the church right now that we just kind of taken under our wings. Me and my worship leader Eric Rivera. We just kind of just helping them. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, of course.
It's. I
you love helping others.
Yeah, because people don't realize the potential that they have. People just don't realize the potential that they have. This one young woman we met with last week, really good writer, just a phenomenal writer, didn't believe it. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm not telling you this because you're here. If you were terrible, I wouldn't say this to you.
You're right.
I'd be straight up, I'd be straight up, be like, hey, look, go find something else to do.
Yeah.
But she grew up in a rough situation. She didn't know that she had that potential. And so she sent us this long letter, me and my colleague, this long letter, just thanking us for taking the time. And we don't do it because of that.
Right.
But it's important for me to tell other people what they could be really great at.
Yeah. That's dope. That's dope. We don't get that enough, especially in our culture. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we don't get that a lot.
No, it's like you a lot of times we're in survival mode. You gotta be hard, you gotta be, and I get it.
Yeah. A G all day. It's time.
A G all day. Especially back in the day.
Especially at the workplace.
Well, especially back in the day when you had to go to sort of food stamps.
Right.
Like back then, they didn't have the EBT card. They had the food stamps and the booklets. Man, you better hide that someplace.
Whole book, huh? Have you dealt with any challenges as being a pastor? I know you went through all those things. But you feel like now it's like it's easier? No. It's always hard. Yeah. In the entertainment industry, a lot of racism. And there's no noticeable difference. Yeah. In either or. Yeah. So there's challenges. There's the usual challenges, which is people challenges, and that comes with the territory. But then there's other things that can, from a structural and political standpoint, that can be challenging as well. I won't get into all of that now. Right. But for Yvette to have this spot right here, she could tell you a bunch of stories. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we can talk for hours. She could tell you a bunch of stories. But yes. What's one thing that people don't understand you as a person? I'm silly. Yeah. Because of the eyebrows. Yeah. Folks just think I'm mean all the time. But what? I'm not silly. I'm silly. I'm a goofball. I'm a kid. I'm really like a 10. Like my daughter says, "Have you grown up yet?" And she says it I get what she's saying. Yeah. I just make dumb jokes and I bother my kids, and I'm just really a big kid. If I still play with toys and. I know you'll be like, Lord, just to get this stuff out of here. Have you grown since from the past till now? Has it been growth? Yeah. Or are you still growing? I'm still growing. I used to be really angry. And I've gotten better. Like back in the day when we used to have to take those, like when me and my wife were talking about getting married. Yeah. The first time, we were getting premarital counseling, and
the pastor looked at me. He's like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, no. Y'all would destroy each other.
Yeah.
And he was right. So there's like some charts
Yeah.
where your personality, where you do a personality test. And in the category of like dominant, like my way or the highway,
Yeah.
I used to test off the charts.
Oh wow.
It's just really bad. So I just recently took one again last year, and I'm like the outcome is you're supposed to be a triangle.
Right.
I'm more of a triangle now.
Oh, okay.
Before I used to be like, it was bad. It was bad.
Oh my gosh.
It was bad. And I become more empathetic. I become more empathetic. Part of my problem was that I felt like I could overcome. So why can't other folks overcome?
Right.
Right. So you must be weak if you can't handle this particular situation.
Right.
But I spent the being in the hospital really taught me that no, folks aren't weak.
Yeah.
It's like people just may need help.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Because I'm like in the hospital, I'm like this is my mentality. They told me I couldn't get out of bed in the hospital. Or I could fall and die, literally, right? So what I would do, I would get out of bed. And I would try to walk, and I said, I'll make this work. I'm going to be walking by the end of the week.
Yeah.
And I busted myself up a couple times, so they put me on the bed, on bed punishment, so I couldn't get up.
Oh my God. Oh no.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hard-headed, and I used to be more hard-headed. I'll put it like that.
Has your life humbled you?
Yes.
As of some point?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's just two extremes. I'm this kid from essentially the hood. You know, but I'm sitting with Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm at the church I'm at now, Christ Church. Our main campus is Lake Forest. I'm at this particular church that is having a huge impact. And you know, they have me on staff.
Yeah.
And I'm in a position it was an answered prayer because I had prayed. And I left the church in Lake Villa, and my prayer was, it was a predominantly white church, and which is fine.
Yeah,
you know.
of course.
But I
phrased
had
it different.
Yeah, and you know, there's.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, there's a lot of crossover and stuff
yeah.
like that. Folks are pretty much all the same. Folks in China want the same thing that folks here want.
Right,
you know?
right.
Folks in India want the same thing. You know, they just want to raise their kids with no drama.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
of course.
And so, but I was in a position where I had been out of my culture for so long. You know, for almost 30 years, and that I'm like, Lord, the next spot I want to land, I want to be able to give back. I want to be in a position to give back. Yeah. And actually have some assets. Yeah. You know. And so I stepped down from my church a couple years ago, 2017, and I was looking to move. And it just so happened that first time I did the workshop was in North Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Right? It was in North Chicago,
Okay.
and it just so happened someone from Christ Church was there.
Oh, okay.
Then they gave me a card and said, hey, would you be willing to come and speak to 200 men?
Right.
Well, I didn't know that the 200 men were like really influential people. Okay. And
that's challenging.
Yeah.
Intimidating a little bit, huh?
What?
A little bit?
No. That's I've been in this world so long.
Yeah,
this is like I'm just talking to another board person. Right. And it just so happened that there was a lot of CEOs there and some really influential people, and I had gone in thinking I'm just going to do a TED talk. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Keep it real shallow, and you know, not that TED Talks are shallow, but just kind of keep it surface. Yeah. And God was like, no, you're going to tell your story in front of these people. Yeah. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so I told my story, told my life story. Grew up on food stamps and whatnot. I was a teenage parent, and I used to have a drinking issue, and the response was really positive. And I had a lot of people come up to me and you know, wanting to know more and so on and so forth. So a couple months later, they hired me. Wow. And they Christ Church hired me, and it was an answer to prayer because I had prayed I want to get back to my folks. So they hired me to start a church service that targets Highwood, Illinois. Highwood, Illinois is almost 65% Hispanic. And so I've been in there for about a year and a half now, and the stories that I hear from the families, it's how I was raised. Yeah. So I'm humble. I'm humbled by it all.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh man, Ben. So
we just had our Serve Your City, and it's where you go out to the community and you give back to the community, right? So we had a big event at the park where we giving away free food, right? I don't know. You were at the workshop.
You're right.
Remember those little kids? There was a little Mexican girl and little
I think so.
Caucasian boy.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, and the little Caucasian boy, he was like talking for the whole time.
Yeah,
he was talking a lot.
Yeah.
He was at the park in Highwood at our event.
Oh, okay.
And he starts boo-hooing.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, Ben. And I'm like, oh my goodness. His name's, well, I ain't gonna say his name.
Right.
But right. And so we started hugging.
Right.
And he introduced me to his family and got to know his family.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah. I remember that little boy too. He talked good too.
He did.
He gonna be a bad when we get up
He
there.
is.
Whatever you do, a speaker.
Right.
He probably gonna be a speaker. So,
Right.
so I live by 3 principles in my life: laugh, learn, and love. Who do you love the most?
Who do I love the most?
Yeah. Oh, what do you love?
My wife. My wife. From a physical standpoint, the Lord would, if I had to put it in like, the Lord 1, you know, my wife would be 1A. And it's only because what those two people have contributed to my life. I would not be sane if it wasn't for the Lord and my wife. You know, I probably, the Lord and my wife.
Who makes you laugh?
My wife and my kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're just as goofy as I am.
Yeah.
And our house is literally, you know, we played a dozen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, you know, we engage probably in some what people say unchristian like cracking, but if it's funny, I'm gonna laugh.
Right. Absolutely. So who do you learn from? Or what advice have you learned? Someone's giving you.
My goodness, there's so many people that contributed to my life. I would say the 2 most significant people, aside from God, obviously, aside from the Lord. It was 3. It would be Cecil Shorts. He was the guy that mentored me at Kent State. Okay. My wife and my kids. Okay. My kids are, and I'm not saying this because they're my kids. Yeah. If they were like, if they had no sense, I wouldn't be. I'd say they ain't got no sense. But my kids have really helped me, like understand this new world. Yeah. You know, they have various different kinds of friends. Yeah. That, you know, back in the day, they would just get beat up in after school. That's terrible. You know what I'm talking about? Oh my God. Back in the day, you know.
Your kids will get you saying that.
They've taught me to be really empathetic and really try to see the other side and really try to understand more of a person's story than a snap judgment. And you know, when you grow up, like. Yeah, they like grew up in Buffalo Grove.
Right.
I grew up kind of, right. So it's like you make a snap judgment pretty quick, right.
That's true.
And then being Puerto Rican, we all judgmental anyway. So,
yeah, that's true. I'm half, so I'm just kidding. I'm not half. I just tell people.
Sorry, Puerto Rican folks. That was a joke.
For people that want to get in your position, that want to do what you do, what advice do you give them to get started? They don't know.
From a professional standpoint,
really
work at your craft. School's important, but you know, like Issa Rae got her show because she did it herself. Yeah. You know, oh my goodness. Just really study the craft. Like Kevin Hart, he's not like super educated. No. You know, like from a letter standpoint, but he studied the craft. Yeah. A lot of those comedians and actors, they studied their craft. Like Denzel's awesome not because he's educated and got, you know, he studied the craft. So education always helps, but really studying the craft. The reason why I was able to come in at Hasbro and to not sink was because I ate and studied all of that stuff because it it was a getaway for me.
Right.
It would help me forget about what's going on. But just studying it over and over and over again. So when they dropped me into my first TV show, I already knew what to do. You know, I already knew what to do. And I'm not bragging. It's just like, oh, you just do this and this and this. I just thought it was common sense. But then years later, I had to reflect and be like, no, it's just the trauma that I experienced as a kid. Informed all of those professional decisions. You know, so
yeah. All right, Ben. I thank you.
Thank you for having me, Tiff.
No problem.
Even though we only met twice.
This is the third time. No, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know you're very busy, but I really appreciate you hanging with me and talking with me. You know, putting that information for everybody to learn. So
thank you for having me.
No problem. I would definitely have you back. Anything you got coming up? Any workshops you got coming up soon or?
Not here in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Can anybody contact you or no?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I forgot what my Instagram handle is. I think it's Torres Design. My company's called the Darkitects. We call ourselves the Darkitects because we're brown and we build worlds and create characters.
Ben, you was light skinned. Stop.
No, I would be called Moreno. I would be called brown. I would be called.
Well, you be dark skinned. We both dark skinned. All right, everybody. I thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, comment. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
All right.
Thank you so much, Dino.